Hello, beautiful people. Hope everybody's had a great week. I want to say thank you guys very much for listening, watching, paying attention, all the feedback. Y'all are really awesome, and I appreciate the support. So let's get down to business. Last week I left off, kind of went on a rant about politics and things like that, but I kind of ended the conversation with shame on Jill Biden, and I kind of want to pick up there and tell you what I mean by that. And to give you some backstory and kind of give you an idea of where that perspective comes from is personally, I have not had a stable, healthy relationship my entire life. As an adult or as a child, I didn't have a lot of stability in relationships. And that started, very young, as far back as I can remember. My dad wasn't around a lot. He solved all of his problems by running from them. I guess that's something I picked up from him, especially into my adulthood. I run from most of my problems. Most of my adult relationships, as soon as there was any sort of static or any sort of resistance, I just bailed. So starting very young, as far back as I can remember as a kid, starting over is just sort of like in my routine or in my makeup or whatever you want to call it. Starting over was just what you do. You just start over. You just throw everything away and start over. So I did that a lot, a whole bunch as an adult even. I just, like I said, anytime there was resistance or static or difficulty, instead of trying to figure out the problem or find a solution, I just bailed. And that was the result of most of my relationships. Like I said, I've never really had a long-term, stable, healthy relationship with anybody in my entire life. I've had some, really close, tight male friends, like best friends, but I've never had a really tight relationship with a female for an extended period of time that was healthy and stable and all that. Like I said, I bailed out of them pretty early on. And like I said, me personally, I take responsibility for my part in that. And as an adult, I take responsibility for not sticking it out, not solving those problems, not being mature enough to have difficult conversations, and not healing my wounds, or however you want to say that, not taking part in solving the problem, knowing that the problem was mostly me, even though I blamed the other person. I always found a way to make it their fault why I left, or make it their fault why I couldn't communicate or couldn't stick around, or whatever the case was. I always found a way mentally to justify it was this other person's fault, or this other person's problem, or this other person was crazy, or whatever excuse I used. I always blamed the other person and never took responsibility and never owned my part of that. And the result of that is I let a lot of really good people leave my life, walk out of my life, and I walked out of a lot of good people's lives. And I've also ruined relationships, with ex-girlfriends, with family members. I've ruined relationships with my own behavior, my own decision making, my own bad decisions. So I take responsibility for those things, and those are 100% on me and my fault, and of no fault of somebody else. I've done my fair share of ruining relationships. So this is not a matter of somebody else always being involved in and them doing something and me bailing. There's plenty of times in my life where I ruined a relationship and it was 100% on me and my fault, due to my actions, behavior, things I've said, things I've done. I've hurt people, and I take responsibility for that. But as far as a relationship with women, most of the time my relationships ended because, like I said, it got difficult, or it got hard. And to me, it was, I always felt like a red flag. Oh, this red flag, I got to get out of here, find something else, or find something better, or whatever the case is. So a lot of that was my fault. And a lot of those influences, like I said, came from other people. Like, with my dad not being around a whole lot, I did not learn what a healthy relationship was supposed to look like. I didn't know how to be a leader. I didn't know how to be a father. I didn't know how to be a man at all in a relationship, because there was not a good example there to show me what that was supposed to look like. And it didn't come naturally to me. And I know some people it comes natural, how to be a good person, how to be a good father, how to be a good husband and a good boyfriend. That didn't come natural to me. And I was always looking outside of myself to find those things, and those good examples weren't there for me. So I learned a lot of bad behaviors really young, and I didn't grow up early enough or mature early enough to solve those problems and fix those issues and be a better person than, for example, be a better person or be a better man than my dad was. So I learned a lot of bad behaviors from him, and then other male influences in my life. Even as I got into like my teen years and my late teens, early 20s, a lot of the people around me, I didn't, obviously I didn't choose the best of people to be around. I didn't choose the best of friends, and I made a lot of bad decisions in that department. And even those men in my life, when it came to their relationships and their girlfriends and their fiancés and their wives, we lived a party lifestyle, a fast lifestyle. We were always out doing stuff, not always, but most of the time we were out doing stuff that we really shouldn't have been doing as grown men and as mature, stable, healthy men. We weren't doing what we should have been doing. But I surrounded myself with people that didn't, I don't want to say didn't treat women right, but what I mean is, or what I'm trying to say is that the influences I had around me were always seemed to be men that were in relationships, and they didn't ever have anything good to say about their partner. They didn't have anything good to say about their wife. It was always how bad their wife was a drag, or how terrible their relationship was. So all I ever heard was how bad the relationship is. I always heard the bad stories. So I mentally was just chalking this up as, why would I ever want to be in a relationship? Why would I ever want to be married if this is what marriage is like? If my entire upbringing was avoiding women, avoiding being crazy, starting over, starting fresh, finding somebody different, just getting a different person to fill that hole, or fill that hole inside, or that need, was to always find somebody else, or the people that I did know that were in relationships, even if they were stable, they may not have been very healthy. Those men, those were, that were my friends or my influences, that influenced me, were always saying something negative about their wife or about their partner. And it got to me in a sense that, why would I want that type of relationship? Why would I want to be married if this is what marriage is like? Why would I want to have a long-term girlfriend if this is what it's like? And I didn't see past that. And I also didn't take into consideration, because I didn't hear the other side of the story, I did not see the negative and the bad that my friends were doing, or how they were negatively affecting their wife or their girlfriend, because I'm sure they had just as many bad stories to tell about their husbands, or how they were treated, or how they felt. But I never heard those stories because I was friends with the guy, not with the wife. So I had all these negative influences growing up, and I had all these negative influences when it came to relationships, and I just for whatever reason, it cemented in my mind that that's just not what I wanted. I didn't want to be with somebody and be miserable. I would rather be alone and miserable than with somebody else and not be miserable with somebody. So I guess I was easier for me, just from having so much practice of starting over. Like I said, as a child, we moved around a lot. There wasn't a lot of stability. My dad was in and out. Like, there was just not a lot of stability anyway. So it was easy for me mentally to be on my own, be a loner, not be in relationships, and be able to start over. Starting over just sort of became easy for me because I was so used to doing it, where most people now, they fear starting over. Like, I don't fear starting over. I don't fear having nothing. Like, that doesn't scare me at all because that's what I'm used to. So I had all these negative influences in my life on what relationships were supposed to be and what they look like. And, for example, to give you a positive example in my life, I have an aunt and uncle that have been together, since before I was born, and their relationship is like the one beacon of light that I've ever had in my life, as far as what I would want a relationship to be like. And of course, their marriage is not perfect, but of course they do have a lot to be proud of in their relationship and their stability. But that was the one positive influence. And I do wish, as I was younger, I did spend more time around them to see that influence, and maybe it would have changed my perspective on relationships and stability, and what a man is supposed to do for his family, for his wife. So I wish I would have spent more time around them and maybe had some more positive influence, because it was there. Just maybe I wasn't around it enough to see it, or to let it influence me to change my behavior. So as an adult, all the negative influences sort of shaped my mind of how I how I perceived relationships and starting over. And the older I got, so when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I sort of had this idea that as an adult, what you do is you work, you find somebody, you get married, you have kids, and your life goes in that direction. And it didn't happen for me at a young age. A lot of it was because of my choices, my decisions, my behavior, moving around a lot. I wasn't stable, so that thing never really happened. And then as I got older, like I said, the guys around me, as they started to get into long-term relationships or get married, like I only ever heard the bad, I only ever heard the negative. So like I said, it just drove me further and further away of wanting to be in a relationship. And that's been several years back, and I have changed since then. I'm far from perfect. I still make bad decisions. I still, have not had a really healthy, stable relationship, but I look at relationships differently. I look at women differently now. I was no saint at all when it came to dating and being with women. So I can't say that it was always somebody else's fault. I take responsibility for my behavior. But as I've gotten older, I view relationships differently. So whenever I look at a situation and again, I am an outsider looking in, I am, as best I can say, I am passing judgment on Jill Biden and Joe Biden's relationship. So I'm not there every day. I don't know them. I don't hear their conversations. I don't know what love they share between them. I'm just passing judgment as an outsider looking in. And this is how I sort of view the situation, because in my mind, if you are in a relationship, this is my perspective as of today. This hasn't always been the case. And I'm probably wrong because, again, I'm an outsider looking into a long-term, stable, healthy relationship. But when I'm looking at from the outside into this relationship, it bothers me that Jill Biden has let things get to this point with her husband's health, because it's obviously not a secret anymore. Like, nobody's trying to hide the fact that Joe Biden isn't healthy. Okay, so that's, whether it's just because of his age or he has an illness, none of that really matters. The facts are the facts, that he's just not healthy. And the thing is that it's okay to not be healthy, but I guess now when I look at relationships, I view them so differently, because now it's, before I was protecting myself selfishly, and protecting my freedom and all that stuff, and now I feel like I'm protecting myself from evil. I don't want to say evil women, because not all women are evil, but like wickedness. Like, to me, what Jill Biden has done is wicked. That's evil, what she's put her husband through. And I'm sure there's reasons for that, and I'll talk about that in a second. But now I went from a point in my life where I was protecting my freedom selfishly and protecting myself, to where now I feel like I'm protecting myself from people with ill intentions and people that have a wicked heart or an evil spirit. Because in my mind, the way the relationship with Jill and Joe should be is I've said to you guys before that in my mind, in a relationship, a guy's responsibility, the man's responsibility, is to provide and protect. Those are his two core responsibilities, is to provide and protect. There's a lot of other things that come in line behind that, but providing and protecting are number one and number two. Because without those things, nothing else really matters. Because you can say, oh well, love's all that really matters, and that's fine. But that's a naive belief. That's not a real world belief. Yeah, I'm sure you can have a healthy relationship based on love alone, but it's really hard to have a loving, safe, secure relationship when you're not provided for. You're not safe. So providing safety and security and providing a healthy situation is the man's responsibility. And on the opposite end of that, the way I view the female side of the relationship is, yes, part of her responsibility is to provide love to the relationship and support for the relationship. I also feel like part of her responsibility is protection. So from the female perspective, I view the female's role in the relationship is to protect her man. So if the man's job is to protect the woman's job is just as equal and just as much to protect the man. And I don't feel like in this scenario or this situation that Jill has protected Joe. And to me, it's obvious, and it's again my perspective, my opinion. And I know opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and most of them stink. So my opinion probably stinks, but I feel like Jill should have protected Joe, and I don't think she's done that. So when I look at this as an outsider, it's another reason why I has cemented in my mind why I don't want to be in a relationship, because this woman should have been protecting Joe. She should have been saving Joe from himself, or saving Joe from this pack of dogs that's basically after him. And it seems like she let it happen. And again, there's lots of reasons why, I'll get into that, but it seems like she was complicit in allowing this to happen. If she didn't have a part in making it happen, she was at least complicit in letting it happen. And to me, it's just inexcusable. Like, I can't get my head around, how could a woman that's been with a man for decades allow this to happen to him? Like, she's supposed to be watching his back. She's supposed to be protecting him from behind. And it does not seem like that's been the case. Like, his mental condition has deteriorated, and she should be the first one to say, that's enough. This is over. We're going to stop this. And to see her in the public view and in the public eye, on camera with a microphone in his face, like coddling him and talking to him like he's a baby, like, oh, congratulations, Joe, you answered all the questions. Like, it's humiliating. It's humiliating him. Like, not a single shred of dignity or class. It's disgusting. Like, how can you take your 80-something-year-old husband out in public, put him on a stage, let him humiliate himself, humiliate the country, humiliate the office that he holds, humiliate himself in a debate against another presidential candidate, and then after it's all said and done, go on camera and just pat him on the back like he's a kindergartner? And it's so bad. It's so bad. And that, to me, is like, it's just evil and it's wicked. Like, how could you do that to somebody that you supposedly care about, that you supposedly love? Like, you're supposed to be protecting him from this, and you're part of it. It makes me sick. It makes me upset. And again, I use it as a reason to justify to myself why I don't want to be in a relationship, because I'm weak. I'm soft. Like, I couldn't be wheeled out on a stage and humiliated like that. That would crush me. Like, maybe Joe Biden's so gone he didn't even realize what's going on. But as a coherent person, like, I couldn't be humiliated like that. I couldn't be with somebody for months and years and bonded to this person for however long, and be trusting them to be looking out for my best interest and looking out what's best for us and our family, just to be humiliated. I mean, it's like, I just don't, I'm not strong enough for it. Like, I couldn't take it. Like, that would crush me, that would devastate me, and I couldn't do it. So to see it happen, and so many people just gloss right over it like it's not a big deal, or it didn't happen, like, to me, it's shameful. Like I said, it's just my perspective, it's just my opinion, but it's really hard to watch. I mean, I have friends that have been through the trenches in their marriage, and there are times where, if they've got kids, there's times where it took everything that they had to hold their relationship together, whether they were disgusted with each other, angry with each other, upset, mad with each other, going through different phases of their lives at different times, pulling in opposite directions, to finally come back around and end up in the same location. But I don't remember those people ever, publicly shaming or humiliating each other. They may have had, a nasty word here or there to say about each other out of anger, but they weren't vicious. Like, they weren't mean. They weren't trying to hurt the other person. So I question what Jill Biden's motives are here. Like, is there a reason why she's doing this? Like, what is she protecting at this point? Because I know plenty of strong women, and no, they're not the vice president, or they're not the president's wife, or they've never been the vice president's wife. They've never been in the Washington D.C. elite circles. So I know your character may change as you grow into a role like that. But I know some pretty strong women, and they're in relationships, they're in marriages, and I know plenty of women that would excuse me, that would never, never put their husband through that. Like, I know some women that are like vicious when it comes to protecting their kids, and vicious when it comes to protecting their marriage, and vicious when it comes to protecting their husband. And to see someone so publicly be betrayed like that, like, it makes me question relationships. It does. It makes me question this person's authenticity. Like, what's in it for her? What is she protecting something? Do they have, blackmail on the family? Like, I mean, their kids are grown, like, their kids are adults. We're not talking about, she's protecting infants. I mean, and everything, at least that we know of, everything that could be viciously, meanly said about the Bidens has been said about their family, about their kids, about their business practices, about their political career. Like, everything nasty that could have been ever been said has been said. So what is left to fear at this point? Like, at what point do you come out in defense of your husband and say, you know what, enough is enough. I'm putting my foot down. I'm ending this charade. I'm making this stop. You're not using my husband as a puppet anymore. I'm not letting you use him as a tool. He's sick. He's not healthy. And it's my job as his wife to protect him from any more, for whatever amount of time he has left on this planet. Like, does she not have some kind of responsibility to step up and step in? I mean, it's just, it just makes me angry, and it makes me worked up that's even a thing, and to see it at such a high level, like I said, it just makes me question relationships. So now, like, even if I meet somebody that I think is honest and trustworthy and doesn't have motives and is a genuine person, like, I have to worry that I'm going to commit 20, 30, 40 years of my life to somebody that at some point is just going to flip on me, is just going to turn their back on me for whatever reason, like, or humiliate me. Like, again, I'm not tough enough, I'm not strong enough to endure that kind of humiliation. And maybe I'm too sensitive, and maybe I'm overly sensitive to humiliation or what other people think. But that I completely just lose trust, not in women as a whole, but in a relationship. Like, I would just rather be on my own. I would rather just do it on my own. And if I fail, or if I do something humiliating, or if I do something embarrassing, or if I do anything wrong, at least it's all on me. At least I don't get my legs cut off by somebody that's supposed to be on my side. I would rather fail publicly on my own than be sunk by somebody that's on my team, especially somebody that took vows. Like, is there not just any weight or merit to vows anymore? Like, are you not committed to this person before God above everything else? Like, it's just so bizarre to watch. And I don't feel terrible, and I don't feel bad for Joe Biden as a politician. I feel bad for Joe Biden as a person. And he's obviously not healthy, and he's sick, and he needs to spend whatever time he has left, even if he's got 10 years left. He needs to spend it enjoying his life, enjoying his family, his kids, his grandkids, his great-grandkids. He needs to spend the rest of his life enjoying himself. But man, how do you go to bed? How do you go to sleep at night in the same bed with somebody that wheels you out in front of millions of people on camera and humiliates you? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. And again, I'm the last person on the planet anybody should take relationship advice from. I'm not qualified to give advice at all. I just am telling you, my fear of relationships has grown from, it's easy for me to start over. I'm not scared to start over. No good role models. I don't know how to behave in a relationship. And growing into somebody that is willing to and able to make an effort to communicate and learn from my mistakes and be a better person and not bail out at the first sign of difficulty, and learn to trust people, because a lot of it's trust. Like, I have a mistrust for the opposite sex, and this is a good example. Like, how do you trust a creature that's so quick after decades of relationship to just turn on you and just feed you to the wolves? And to me, like, I guess I just want to find that one out there that there's no amount of money on the planet that would have them do that, or whatever the case is. It could be money, it could be blackmail, it could be status, it could be she's just another pawn in the game. You know, I don't know, but I just don't see myself. Again, most of it's fear and humiliation, and I'm soft, so I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm not going to take that risk. I'd rather die lonely than die lonely and humiliated in the process. Like, I'm just not strong enough to endure that. So I don't know. I say all that, but I basically getting close to the end of time, and I did want to try to get to a little bit of the Olympics, but yeah, I'm just not tough enough to endure that. It's just crazy for me to watch. And again, I know there's so much more going on behind the scenes. There's things I don't know. There's facts I don't know. I'm just judging these people by perception and a little bit of video I've seen, a little bit of audio I've seen. But that's my opinion on it. And that's, you know, again, I'm using this as justification as to why I've spent most of my life as a single person and because I have trust issues. And this is a really good example of why I have trust issues, is because I just have in my heart and in my mind that no matter how much time and energy you invest with somebody and into somebody, for whatever reason, as human beings and as creatures, we're just quick to turn on each other. And I just don't have the strength, and I don't have thick enough skin to have somebody turn on me that easily. And again, I say easily, I don't know what it's taken to get to this point, but that publicly at least, like, man, it's just hard to watch. It's hard to watch. So when I say shame on Jill Biden, again, I know I'm just passing judgment on her, and I really shouldn't do that. I'm just using her name and the visual, just using that visual as an example to justify, again, why I think the way I think. And it's just embarrassing, and I hope Joe Biden gets the help that he needs and gets healthy and lives out the rest of his days in a good way and in a good mental space. It's just hard to watch it from the outside, and I don't mean to pass judgment on them, even though I'm sure that's what it sounds like. So next, I'll try to make this quick. It's probably another like super long conversation, but I'm sure most of you have seen kind of what's going on with the Olympics right now. There was an opening ceremony the other day that got a lot of play on the internet, and it didn't go over really well with a lot of people. I don't see or hear a lot of people saying that they loved it or that they even really liked it. Again, maybe that's because I'm in a sort of echo chamber of people that only the negative comments are out there. So I'm only seeing the negativity, and you just kind of you dive off into that, and it just gets worse and worse. So maybe there are people out there saying it was great and it was awesome and it was the best thing ever. I haven't seen a lot of that, but I'm sure it exists. But when I see it and I watch it and I see some of the pushback, and I see that, you know, I think I read somewhere, going again, it's the internet, you never really know, but I think I read somewhere where they've actually taken it, you know, the actual Olympic committee has taken it down or something like that. Don't know if that's true or not, but there was at least enough pushback for it to get to that point. And then I saw most of the criticism came from a depiction of what people in the Christian camp are saying was meant to represent the Last Supper. The artist that created it saying it's not. There's a lot of people saying that it's not. It was meant to depict something else. It just happened to look like that. It's really confusing, and it depends on where you go to get your information, whether it was supposed to be that, where it was not supposed to be that, whether it was or whether it wasn't. But let's just assume, gosh, I'm running out of time too fast. I talk too much. So I'll probably have to pick this up next week, but let's just assume for a moment that it was a depiction of the Last Supper. And again, a lot of people are saying it's not, but the one of the main characters in the depiction was the lady that was in the middle. I think she was wearing like a purple dress and this thing on her head, and on her own Instagram, on her own post, she made a comment, something to the effect of the gay New Testament. So it's really hard to separate that image, which appeared to the Christian community, which is a big group of people on the planet. You're talking like over 2 million people. So, 20-25% of the planet identify as Christian. They saw it. It's odd that nobody else before it happened, when in rehearsal or whatever the case is, nobody saw it. But now over 2 billion people saw it as a depiction of the Last Supper. One of the main characters in the depiction called it the gay New Testament, and now they're trying to separate themselves from it and say that's not what it was. So let's just assume for a moment that it was. Let's just assume for a moment that it was. Again, a lot of people are saying it wasn't. Let's just assume for a moment that it was. If it was, what would it take for Christians to draw a line in the sand and say enough is enough, we've had enough, and actually take a stand and do something about it? Because it appears to me, and it feels like to me, that Christianity is the only religion, the only group of people that can be openly mocked, openly ridiculed, with complete immunity. You cannot say anything negative about Catholics, Muslims, any sort of Eastern religion, Middle Eastern religion. You cannot say anything negative about that without serious, significant backlash. So how is it possible for there to be so much open anti-Christian rhetoric out there and there be silence from the Christian community? It's bizarre to me that Christianity, I saw somebody say something recently about this exact event, is that Christianity's lost its teeth. There is no outspoken, there's plenty of people outspoken, but nobody willing to draw a line in the sand and say enough is enough. This is enough. We're not doing this anymore. You can't mock our religion. You can't mock our religion, because if this would have been any other religion, if their opening ceremony even remotely resembled any other artistic rendition of a moment in history that was, a painting or something like that, if it even remotely resembled a different religion's iconic painting, it would have been huge backlash, huge backlash, and it would have been nonstop. There would have been boycotts. There would have been people, yanking advertisements. There would have been people, pulling their athletes out of the Olympics. I mean, it would have been catastrophic. So how is it, and why is it that Christianity is the only religion that can be openly mocked and made fun of, and there's just no backlash? There's no repercussions whatsoever, and it's just in our society, people can just openly mock Christians and Christianity, and not a peep, not a word. Christians can be persecuted. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's the only religion where people can be humiliated, persecuted, mocked, made fun of, told. You could not go to an Arab Muslim country and tell a group of people, go to, say, for instance, a mosque, or stand outside of a mosque and say that Allah is not real and your religion's a joke. But somehow, some way, in the United States, like, people walk around all day long and they make fun of the Bible, they make fun of churches, they make fun of Christians openly. If you did that in a Middle Eastern country, you'd be lucky to get out of there alive. You would be lucky to walk out of there on your own 2 feet. But somehow, some way, in the United States, in what's supposed to be a Christian nation, you can openly mock any day, any time, Christianity, the belief system, the Bible. You can openly mock it, make fun of it, and not a blink, not a wink. Nobody cares. Just everybody acts like it's not even going on. It's just bizarre to me. It's just an observation. So I'm already over my time. You guys have a great week. I love you guys very much. Thank you for paying attention, and you guys take care of each other. Bye.